Hello, I'm David Hardesty, and in this lecture I want to talk to you about my expectations for your writing in this course. The goals for this lecture are as follows. Review how writing fits into professional practice. Understand how to prepare written answers in unit discussion problems in this course. And understand how to prepare written answers to problems in examinations in this course. Based on my own experience and observation over more than 3 decades of practice as a tax consultant and writer, here is how I look at the way that writing fits into tax practice at the master's level. In order to provide the best tax advice and to find the best solutions to difficult tax problems, you need to first identify all of the tax issues presented in a fact situation. In order to identify tax issues, you need a broad exposure to all significant areas of taxation relevant to a problem. In this course, the goal is to cover each area of domestic, state, and international taxation that an e-commerce enterprise will face, so that you can identify all of the tax issues facing a particular individual or company that need to be addressed and researched. In order to effectively research identified issues, you need to understand how to work with primary and secondary tax authorities. In this course, this means gaining in-depth knowledge of those sections of the Internal Revenue Code and related regulations, and those cases and rulings that impact electronic commerce, as well as gaining an exposure to the many state and international tax laws that can apply. In order to effectively communicate the results of research in writing, you must practice good habits of writing. Written communication is the subject of the rest of this lecture. Often you will have to communicate orally. Here, learning to write well helps tremendously. Good writing helps you organize your thinking, and this translates into a well-organized oral presentation. Although TA 352 is not described as a writing course, for practical purposes it is, at least in part. In order for Masters of Tax students to effectively communicate, they must focus on good writing skills. Therefore, here is what I expect of students in this course. First, I expect anything you write to be based on primary and secondary authorities. If you cite a rule in a discussion or exam, then you have to indicate the source of the rule. This is the way a tax professional writes in the real world, and you need to get as much practice in this method of writing as you can in a controlled classroom setting so that you have the right skills when you enter that world. Second, I expect good quality sentences and paragraphs, good grammar and spelling, and well-organized answers to discussion and exam problems. I expect a quality that would be appropriate for a letter or memo to an employer, a client, or a governmental agency. This means complete sentences, well thought out paragraphs, and no email or text message type shorthand. In short, I insist on professional writing. There is a simple reason for this. It has been my experience that professional level writing encourages professional level thinking and analysis. If a student writes using complete sentences, clear paragraphs, then the student tends to provide a much higher level of analysis than a student who gives little thought to the writing process. More important, complete sentences and clear paragraphs make for a much better organized and understandable presentation and analysis. Finally, continual practice of good writing skills gets students closer to the goal of obtaining professional level writing skills, which makes them better tax professionals. Now let's turn to writing in discussion problems. The purposes of the discussions in this course are as follows. Apply the knowledge gained from reading and quizzes to a variety of situations encountered by companies engaged in electronic commerce. Gain experience working with the authoritative materials that are important to electronic commerce, including key statutes, rulings, and cases. And provide written communication of the conclusions regarding the issues research. Another quite practical goal is to learn how to effectively address these types of problems in writing, which will allow students to do well on exams in this course, which are composed of problems much like the unit discussion problems. The writing goals for the discussion problems are best accomplished by approaching each discussion problem as a tax research project. A written tax research paper or opinion has 5 basic elements represented by the mnemonic FIRAC. Facts, a statement of the relevant facts. Issue, a brief statement of the issue or issues to be addressed in the tax research paper. Rule, citations to rules that apply to the research paper. Analysis, the application of rules to facts. And conclusion, a statement of the conclusions on the issues. To encourage complete answers using the FIRAC approach, each discussion and exam problem is formatted as follows. Facts. The facts are given in the discussion problem or exam question itself. There is no need for the student to restate the facts. After presenting the facts, each problem or discussion presents one or more issues to be addressed. So you do not have to restate the issues. Each issue is followed by a subheading called titled Rules. The relevant authority should be cited here. In this section, it is best to cite a rule and then briefly summarize the rule. Analysis. Under the analysis subheading, apply the facts to the rules. Conclusion. Under the conclusion subhead, directly answer the question posed in the issue. Sometimes the analysis and conclusion can be combined. However, for safety's sakes, in addressing an issue, it is best to specifically state the conclusion just to remind yourself to do so. Sometimes students simply forget to address the specific issue, and to make clear to readers what you believe the conclusion to be. Here's an example of how a discussion and exam problem might be presented. Facts. XYZ.com is a startup company that spends $1 million to create an e-commerce website. The site will sell consumer products. The development period starts January 1st, 2022, and the first sale from the site is made September 15, 2022. Assume that the company is subject to Section 195 during the development period. Among the costs incurred during the development period is $300,000 in website design and software development. Issue 1. Can any of these website design and software development costs be currently deducted during the development period? What I want is for you to answer a question like this in a specific way. It may seem a bit formalistic at first, but I believe you will find it easier and more efficient to respond to questions in this way. Here's how I would address this particular problem. Facts and issues. The facts and issues in this problem are already stated, so you do not have to deal with them. Rule. Here's how I would cite the relevant rules. Under sections 195A and B, section 195 costs, startup costs, are capitalized and amortized over 15 years, starting when active business operations begin. Section 195 costs include, among other things, Section 162 expenses incurred during the startup period, and they do not include, among other things, Section 174 research and experimentation costs. Under Section 174A, a taxpayer must capitalize research and experimentation costs, R&E costs, and amortize them over a 5-year period beginning with the midpoint of the taxable year in which such costs are paid or incurred. Section 195 does not apply to this amortization. Under Section 174C3, any amount paid or incurred in connection with the development of software is treated as an R&E cost. Analysis. In this case, the company will have to first break down the website design and development costs into software development costs that qualify as R&E costs under Section 174C3 and to other costs that do not so qualify, since only amortization of R&E costs can be deducted during the starting period. The other costs may be capitalized or deferred under Section 195 or some other section, such as Section 263, and depreciated or amortized when active business operations begin. Conclusion. A deduction is available during the development period only for amortization of software development costs identified as Section 174 R&E costs. Further facts are needed to identify which of the software design and development costs can be classified as software development costs. Now let's talk about how to respond to other posts. In a discussion, after one student posts a solution to a problem using the format and style discussed previously, other students are expected to comment. How should such comments be made? Here's what you want to do. If you want to comment on another student's post, here's what you do. First, refer clearly to the post that you are commenting on by referring to the student's name and by referring clearly to that part of the post you are commenting on. Then, clearly state your comment, providing proper authorities and your rationale. Use complete sentences, good grammar, and good organization. Here's an example of what not to do. One student commented on a solution by saying, the citation in 3 should have been Section 174A. In this case, it is unclear from this comment what the student is referring to. Second, there is no discussion of what is wrong with the post being commented on, and no discussion of why the new comment is right. Here is how the comment should have read. In Daniel's post, he states that the software is currently deductible under Section 167F. However, that section calls for amortization of software over 3 years. As noted earlier in his answer, Daniel concludes that the software development costs are research and experimentation costs under Section 174. Accordingly, instead of being deducted under Section 167F, the costs are currently deductible under Section 174A. As you know, discussion points are given only if you make substantial posts to the discussion area. In most cases, posts will be substantial only if they include all or most of the FIREC elements. As discussed above, these elements are fact, issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion. Does a post have to be extensive to include all of these elements? No. Here's a brief example of a comment on a previous post that contains all of the FIREC elements. I agree with Ellen's post, except that WebCo may also be taxable in State B. State B Reg 149A says that a company has nexus in State B if its salespeople are present in the state for at least 2 weeks. If the facts show that WebCo's salespeople are present in State B, then State B may assert nexus. Accordingly, Webco management needs to track carefully the time spent by its salespeople in State B to identify when it may have a nexus problem in that state. Take a look closely at this short comment and you will see all of the elements are present. Some example of insubstantial posts for which no discussion points are ordinarily awarded are as follows. I agree with Helen. This is a totally insubstantial personal opinion that adds nothing to the discussion. Also see State B, Reg 143A. Who knows what this poster is referring to? Webco may also have nexus in State B if its salespeople are present in that state for too long. This comment is not helpful because we do not know how the poster arrives at this conclusion. Now let's talk about writing for exams. The midterm and final exams both involve written answers to questions asked about a set of facts. The written part of the exams is much similar to the weekly discussion problems. However, there may be fewer issues to address. The answers to the questions should be organized in much the same manner as the answers to the discussion problems. That is, facts and issues will be given, and students will supply the rule, analysis, and conclusion. Because the answers should be similar in form and organization to the discussion problems, students should use the discussion problems to practice writing for the exams. This way, students can learn from instructor critique and the critique of other students how to answer these problems most effectively. Students are always looking for tools to help them to achieve their writing goals, so let's consider some of them. There are many grammar checkers and some work very well, so use them. Text-to-speech tools, which read text out loud, can greatly improve your writing. Take it from a writing professional. This is the single best way I know of to improve writing. The reason text-to-speech readers work is they read back to you exactly what you've written. When you hear your own words out loud, you discover errors in grammar, spelling, and usage that you would not catch by reading the text yourself, and which are often missed by spelling and grammar checkers. In addition, when you hear the words, you can tell if what you have written sounds right. Sounding right is often the best test for good writing. Microsoft Windows has a built-in text-to-speech program, which is a very good reading tool. I use it constantly. Here's a final word. In professional tax practice, if you are arguing a point with tax authorities, you often have to do so in writing. If you are advising your client or your employer on how to comply with tax rules, you often have to do so in writing. If you cannot effectively communicate what you know in writing, people will assume that you do not know and will dismiss what you are trying to say. In this course, in discussion problems and in exams, if you cannot effectively express what you know in writing, then I have to assume you do not know. In this course, as it is in the real world of professional tax practice, it is not enough to know tax law. You often have to convincingly communicate that knowledge in writing. Because effective writing is critical to a tax professional, you should use this course to hone your writing skills. You have to make good writing a priority. If you need help with your writing, talk to Cyber Campus or the tax school about your options for getting help.